Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and at this point, I've made a video on every other episode in my bottom 5 of Season 4. So naturally, I'm way long overdue for talking about Wigstruck again. And in fact, yes, this video was supposed to come out literally years ago, and the reason it hasn't is because I've done a number of different tries at this rant and have not been happy with any of them. But before I go any further, let's look at what I originally had to say.
Wigstruck. SpongeBob starts wearing a wig. Yeah, that's pretty much the entire plot. Well, people make fun of him for it, but yeah, that's about it. Sometimes simple plots aren't always the best. I really don't like this episode, and it's pretty much because most of the jokes in this episode are repetitious. People make fun of SpongeBob because the wig looks stupid, SpongeBob misconstrues their insults as compliments and acts smug about it. Then as soon as SpongeBob loses the wig, everyone in Bikini Bottom gets one. It's not really funny so much as it is just annoying. I like the one part where everyone runs screaming out of the movie theater because of SpongeBob, and the people working there say, "I told you that movie was terrible." That's a funny line. But aside from that, there really isn't many jokes in this episode that work. And the entire plot is just kinda stupid and a little bit mean-spirited. I mean, yeah, the wig looks silly, but everyone in this episode just outright attacks SpongeBob. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this one a SpongeBob episode.
Here is the thing about Wigstruck. It is beyond boring. The plot is SpongeBob gets a wig, everyone laughs at him, SpongeBob gets rid of the wig. That's it. That's the entirety of the plot. And there's no interesting twists in there. There's just nothing. The episode is just filled with nothingness. It's such a waste of time. I guess the thought is that SpongeBob wearing this silly wig would just automatically be funny on its own. I mean, all the characters in the show are laughing at SpongeBob, so I think the writers just thought that SpongeBob in this wig is a laugh riot in and of itself, when it's just not. To be completely honest, SpongeBob wearing the wig doesn't even look that weird. He's worn way stranger outfits, and considering he's a cartoon character, it just doesn't look that odd. Sure, if I or someone else in real life were to wear a wig like this, you'd look silly, but SpongeBob? It kinda fits him. And so many of the jokes in this episode are just, ha ha, people are making fun of SpongeBob and he doesn't get it. He thinks they're complimenting him. Ha ha, his wig is disgusting because it has a bunch of bugs living inside it and sheds like crazy. There's not much variety, and there's just nothing clever about the way any of this is written. Though I will admit, one joke that actually wasn't about wigs in this episode did make me laugh. And in general, I don't have a problem with the townfish being mean to SpongeBob. But just because I'm not usually bothered by that stuff doesn't mean that certain episodes can't do it in a way that actually does bother me, like this one. I'm okay with the townsfish being jerks if it works for the story, but in this one, it is just so overwhelmingly strong and obnoxious that it takes away from the story. When a character is wearing a wig that really isn't that funny or silly in and of itself, and every single character in the show is going on and making such a giant deal about it, it just doesn't seem justified in any sort of way. Like, if SpongeBob were wearing a diaper, I'd understand it, and if you compare it to something like Grandma's Kisses, in that episode, the teasing wasn't anywhere near as extreme or lengthy as it was here, and at least in that episode, it denotes a common social problem about an embarrassing kiss from a grandparent. And the teasing was only a jumping off point for the story of SpongeBob feeling like he was acting too childish, and not the entire episode being made up of people teasing him. Another episode that's similar to Wigstruck is Something Smells. In that episode, though, instead of everyone making fun of SpongeBob, they just freak out and run away. And in that episode, it seemed like a lot more of an appropriate reaction to something that smells putrid, compared to this episode where people just laugh at and make fun of SpongeBob, without even knowing how disgusting the wig actually is. Also, you know, Something Smells is actually funny. And the message at the end here is pretty confusing. On the one hand, yes, SpongeBob was being a little bit of a nuisance in terms of cooking food with this disgusting wig and wearing it in a movie theater where it's obviously not appropriate to do so, but on the other hand, it seems like Sandy's making him get rid of it just because society as a whole thinks his wig is stupid. It's like he's giving in to the bullies by getting rid of the wig, but at the same time, there are also legitimate reasons for him to get rid of the wig. So I'm not entirely sure if I even agree or or disagree with Sandy here, but regardless, you have to feel bad for poor SpongeBob, who after everything he's been through in this episode does not get anything close to a happy ending. And then the very ending, when all the townsfish are wearing the wig because suddenly it's fashionable now and SpongeBob calls them out on it. It should be funny, I understand that it's a joke, but man, after everything we've seen in the episode and just how harsh everyone was on SpongeBob, it really does seem more like a cruel twist of the knife than something that's actually supposed to be comedically ironic. There's also a subplot in this episode. It's very brief, and it introduces these characters that we've never seen before, and really we don't get to see enough of them for me to even care one iota about what happens to them. And the story basically is, this one guy lost his wig, at the end, he magically got his wig back. This subplot just serves as a very strange and weird way to set up this story that is just totally unneeded. If there was just a wig blowing in the breeze that hit SpongeBob in the face and that's where the episode began, would you really have even questioned it or cared where exactly the wig came from? The subplot segments just seem like a waste of time in an episode that already is doing nothing with the time that it's given. The reason it took me so long to make this video is just because there's really not much to talk about here. It is a very, very empty episode. The jokes are very repetitive and there really aren't many and there isn't much variation on the ones we get. And the story is just super simple with nothing weird or interesting or unique or funny to balance it out. There are some episodes that are just kind of dull, and then there's this episode that is just 11 minutes of nothingness. I much prefer it to episodes like Choir Boys or That Sinking Feeling, and I think Waiting will probably take the cake for the most boring, pointless episode of them all, but it's still a very dull and unenjoyable experience. PIEGUYRULZ, out.